Okay, I'm in the studio with Kevin Armstrong. How, Kevin?
Yeah, hi Howard. How are you?
We're good, thank you. Welcome to Camden Town Radio.
Thanks. Yeah, good to be here.
Now, Kevin is an English rock guitarist, record producer and songwriter. And he's best known for his work with David Bowie, Iggy Pop and Morrissey. Have I got that correct?
Yeah, among others, I guess they're the names people will have heard of, most certainly.
Yes. So do you want to tell us a little bit about your background and how you started out?
Yeah, well, I've been a guitarist now for nearly 50 years.
Yes.
So my arc has gone alongside the arc of popular music and rock music, really, from since a kid.
Yes.
So I was listening to some of these people that I ended up playing with as
Yes.
a kid, and then ran away from home at 16 to kind of pursue my dream, which you sort of could do then.
Yes.
There was a chance you could run away from home at 16 and live in a squat and learn how to play the guitar and go on the dole for 7 years and then suddenly get phoned up by David Bowie. I mean, these things were real things then.
Yes.
So I think it's a lot harder now, but
Yes.
different opportunities have arisen in music. But I never went back to wanting a normal life, so I've stayed that way
After
all my
that,
life,
yes.
and I still play with Iggy Pop now. Yeah.
Yes. And where was home for you originally?
A place called Orpington in Kent, which is
Okay.
about 20 miles south of central London.
Yes.
So it was definitely sort of countrified, on one side of it, and then
Yes.
more built up towards London on the other side. So Orpington, then you get Beckenham, Bromley, and then Lewisham and Catford, and you're in London. So it's
Yes.
like South London. It's almost regarded as South London, that place, I think.
Yes. So I'm imagining early on you based yourself in London?
16, I kind of ran away. Didn't run away from home. In fact, that's the wrong thing to say.
Right.
In fact, I got the best advice ever, parental advice ever.
Yes.
In those days, you used to sort of read the back of the Melody Maker and look for auditions to go to and things like that. So that's what
Yes.
I was doing as a teenage guitar player, trying to
Okay.
break out of my hometown.
Yes.
And I got a job with a band in London who had a record deal. At 16 years old I was, and I said to my dad, I want to leave home, go and live on someone's sofa and
Yes.
join a band. And his one golden nugget of a dad-like advice was to say to me, if you don't do this now, you'll always regret it, so just go
Right.
and do it.
All right.
So that was a great thing
Yes.
to say to me.
Yeah, and are we in the 1960s at this point?
Well, no, it was actually 70s.
Yes.
Early 70s I came to London.
Yes.
Mid 70s really. So
Okay.
punk happened
Yes.
pretty much. I was already in London and being a pro guitarist, and then punk happened. So
Okay.
that was a kind of the whole rethink for everybody in music, especially those who could play a little bit before that happened.
Yeah, so had you been doing some session work up to that point?
Some session work and with a kind of pop band that had a deal with a major label, in fact.
Okay.
But it wasn't a real project in a way. It was like the ancient equivalent of modern day boy bands, where
Right.
you're not required to really be in the studio when your records are being made. It's
Oh,
all
okay.
done by
Yes.
other people, and
Oh,
you're
I
just
see,
there to
yes.
have your picture taken. So it was a bit frustrating for somebody who
Yes.
wanted to do the real thing.
Yes.
And so I kind of bailed out of that. And punk was a great sort of window where you go, well, wait a
Yes.
minute, what am I doing? Like wearing a gold jacket and having my photograph taken. And even if I'm with EMI and if I'm not being allowed near a studio, then what this is all about, So I got heavily into the punk scene really, and went back to my hometown and started hanging out with local bands down there. One of whom was the mighty Splodgeness Abounds.
Okay. All right.
2 pints of lager and a packet of crisps, and I was kind of
Yes.
helping them out in the studio.
All right. And now I believe, moving on a little bit to 1980 now, I believe at that point you were with a group called Local Heroes.
Yeah, that was my own group. Yeah, and there was a little label. It was the sort of post-punk. There was this massive explosion of indie labels, wasn't there? Right?
Yes.
Little labels, like Stiff and one of those was called Oval Records, and it was based out of Clapham with a guy called Charlie Gillett, who's sadly
yes.
now died. But and I just phoned him up and said, "Look, I'm really good. You ought to hear my stuff."
Yes.
And he said, "All right, come and show us what you got."
Yes.
So I sort of piled into his little office in Clapham in the
right.
basement with a guitar and sang him some songs, original songs.
Yes.
And he sort of signed me on the spot.
Oh,
I
right.
thought, that's the music business cracked then,
Yes.
which was a little premature. But so the band Local Heroes came out of that, and we did
Yes.
make a couple of indie albums, which the mighty John Peel used to play.
Okay. Yes.
And I still get letters from 7 people in Poland about
Yes.
and occasional fans in America and things. And so it's still out there floating around, that record.
Yes.
but it kind of it led me on to a different path in life. You know, being an artist. I was an artist for a little while.
Okay.
But it led me onto a different path
So,
via a gentleman called Thomas Dolby, who you may have heard of.
Ah, right. So we've gone through there sort of the first part of your career being in the band Local Heroes,
Yeah.
but then shortly after that was when your career changed and you started to work with some different musicians.
Well, I worked with Thomas Dolby, who was a really smart cookie. You know, he was an electronic musician, a sort of synth pioneer. And I got diverted into being Thomas's collaborator for a while.
Yes.
And then from there, bounced to having my own deal with EMI as a proper songwriter band leader. You know?
Ah, okay, yes.
But that didn't really work out so well.
Was that through a publishing deal? Or?
No, it was a full recording deal, and we did
Yes.
make an album, but it was at the time when large companies were signing up hundreds of things and pouring loads of money into everything.
Yes.
And then if you didn't have a success straight away with your first release, you were kind of someone higher up would go, right, put a red line through all this lot and we'll get rid of them. And I was in one of those reject piles, you know.
Oh, okay.
Because we didn't they just didn't give us enough time to do it, and maybe I wasn't ready for it really.
I see.
But then just after that, I got a call from a guy at EMI, said, I'm sorry that your deal with us has ended, but if you go to Abbey Road and take your guitar, you can thank me later.
Oh, right.
So
that sounds quite exciting.
Well, it was like a mysterious thing, yeah. So we didn't. I turned up and there was a bunch of people there, musicians, some of whom I knew and some I didn't, and we were there to do a session for Mr. X, who we didn't know who it was, and in walked David Bowie.
Oh, right. Wow.
Saying, "Hi, I'm David," which we didn't really sort of need to know. But anyway, so that led on to a sort of 10-year collaboration with Bowie.
Oh, right.
And then bounced me towards Iggy Pop, who I still play with now. So that just changed my life that day, really.
Well, that gives us a very good overview of how you got to where you are today. So I believe you've recently been working on an album, and would it be right it's the first album in quite
Well, since those Oval days, actually, yes, since Local Heroes. I mean, I've always recorded and written my own songs and had my own studio.
Yes.
So I've always been building up a body of work.
Right.
But then now that, actually since David died and since I'm now playing back with Iggy, who is not a young man anymore.
No.
And I've got to look to how my story fits in for me, you know. So I just thought, well, so I started doing some one-man solo shows back as a singer-songwriter.
Okay.
With a view to doing that, you know.
Yes.
When Iggy stops touring, and I thought, well, it'd be nice to have an album to sell at shows.
Yes.
You know, just something to give to people.
Yes.
Or sell, and so I marshalled some of the work that I've been working on in the last few years, and then I added about half the amount again, new material, and this album took shape. And actually, now it's finished. It's it surprised me that it's kind of better than I thought it was going to be. It's called Run.
Yes.
And it's self-released on Wishing Tree Records, but it's getting some really nice reviews and some nice attention. So. Actually, yesterday was the official release date.
Oh.
I can leave you a copy as if you want to offer it to a listener or as a prize or something like that. So I can definitely leave something with you.
Yes, we could do that. Yes, certainly it'll be a good competition.
Yeah.
For us, yes, because I'm guessing it's not officially available yet, or
no, it is officially available.
Today.
It's on iTunes, it's on Amazon, it's on CD Baby, it's on Bandcamp, it's on my own website.
It's everywhere today.
Everywhere.
Yes,
it's absolutely everywhere. Yes. So
okay, that's great.
You can get it. It's even in a few specialist shops, but these days getting hard copy into the shops is really difficult.
Yes.
Well, most people like downloads.
Yes. Do you want to set a question for listeners?
Oh my goodness, that's a really good. Okay, there's yes. Here's a question.
Yep.
I played with Stephen Patrick Morrissey
from
the Smiths, right after he broke up the Smiths.
Okay.
I played with him, and there's a few songs that I co-wrote with him.
Right.
And if a listener can name a couple of those,
okay,
then they should have a copy.
That sounds a good question. We shall put that out there. And,
because I've got a couple of songs I co-wrote with David Bowie on the record, and some stuff with Morrissey too. So
yes, we're quite interested to talk about those tracks. So, in terms of those co-written ones, are they tracks that have already appeared on other albums? Or?
Yes, they are. Although one of them, in particular, was not released initially on an official product. It came out later as a bootleg, first of all.
Okay.
And then there was a reissue Morrissey album, which
okay.
the track did appear on. So
Right,
I
nice.
mention no names about that because I think that should be the competition. People should talk
Okay,
about.
yes.
So which obscure Morrissey track did I collaborate on?
Yes.
And it's from the it's from the late 80s, very late 1980s.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're quite interested in the track Run, which you wrote with David Bowie. Now, are you
Yeah.
able to tell us how the song came about?
Yeah, I am actually, because I was in the band called Tin Machine with Bowie,
Yes.
which was his kind of, hair-raising rock project, which
Yes.
he kind of did in about 1989, 1990.
Yes.
And I got roped into that as playing second guitar alongside the great Reeves Gabrels,
Yes.
and that was a fantastic experience. And I toured. I did the first Tin Machine tour where we did little clubs. We did the National Ballroom in Kilburn, and we did Roxy
yes.
in LA, and we did these like little theatres, and it was great.
Yes.
And really exciting. But at sound checks, of course, we had long sound checks during the day.
Yes.
One day I was playing a song that I'd written in 1980, I think.
Okay.
And I was just playing this riff, to test out an amp or just do some, just play guitar on stage.
Yes.
And David came to me and said, "What is that? What is that you're playing?" I said, "Well, it's an old song of mine from 1980." He went,
Yes.
"Can I have it?"
All right.
So I sort of said, "Well, yeah, I think you can."
Yes.
So I just made a recording of the riff for him,
Okay.
and then we started throwing it around as a band with Tin
Yes.
Machine, and we did play it at a couple of gigs.
Yes. Yes, too.
And then it was on the first album, surprisingly.
All right.
Yeah,
And that's the first track on
it's the opening
album,
track. I put
yes.
it as an opening track. Yeah,
and the
it's-
self-titled
Yeah.
the album.
That's right.
as well.
The title is Run. Yeah, I just thought it was a good, simple title because it's one of
Yes.
those words that has different meanings for different people and different things, isn't it?
That's right. Yes.
Yeah.
We're quite interested in your songwriting with David Bowie, and as far as
Hmm.
is that typical of how it would come about? You'd be trying something else.
Well, of the couple of co-writes I've got with him, yes, it was typical.
Yes.
It came out of a playing situation,
Yes.
and quite a lot of the co-writing I've done with artists has been like that.
Yes,
In fact, the
yes.
Morrissey stuff was different because I figured out with Morrissey that what Johnny Marr and the Smiths probably used to do,
Yeah.
given the intricate nature of the guitar parts that he came up with for Smiths records.
Yes,
I figured they were just instrumentals that he'd written, which
Yes.
he gave to Morrissey.
Okay, yes.
And Morrissey kind of floated over the top, and I just thought that they can't have been in the same room doing that.
No,
Just the way
no,
it sounds, I just didn't think. So, and I was proved correct because that's what I did with Morrissey. I gave him some quite sophisticated guitar recordings,
Okay.
and he picked out 3 or 4 of those to work on.
Yes.
But with Bowie, it was like always about playing live in a room, and then
Yes.
something would catch his ear, and he would say, "Hey, what's that?" And so that was the case for a couple of times. I actually was
Yes.
involved in a really great late Bowie song called "Absolute Beginners,"
Yes.
which it was the title track for the Colin McInnes screenplay, the film "Absolute Beginners," Julian Temple film.
Yes.
Absolute Beginners, and the first time I met Bowie, we were kind of demoing songs for that film.
Okay. Yes.
And I sort of helped him write that song. He had
Yes.
fragments of it,
All right.
and I kind of sat down with him and at the end of a studio session with some spare time,
Yes.
and said, "Well, I think we can knock this into shape, And I kind of although I haven't got a writing credit on that song,
Yes.
I feel involved in it, and I think it was the thing that made Bowie want to continue a 10-year relationship
Yes.
with me on and off. Yeah.
Yes. No, that makes sense. And I guess David Bowie and Morrissey, two quite different characters there. If you had to sort of sum up either of them in terms of working with, what are your sort of abiding memories of
Well,
both of those?
I mean, they're really. I mean, everyone's different, I mean, I think the thing that's sort of very famous artists have in common often is that they're quite vulnerable in some way.
Yeah.
Because everybody wants something from them.
Yes.
And the way they respond to that is different. Now, Morrissey's quite a private and slightly difficult. Complicated man.
Yes.
And so you don't really get that close to him.
Okay.
And if he drops you, it's the trap door, and you never
Right.
get talked to again. Or something like that. Bowie's completely different. Bowie was
Oh.
very engaged with people,
Yeah.
and always very good-humoured and excellent to work with. Like really
Yes.
valued the contribution you were making, and did that with everybody. He was
Yes.
intensely interested in people and kept
Okay.
in contact with people, and he was absolutely amazing.
Yes.
And when he died, I just was knocked out with how he handled his own death, and what
Yes.
he gave to the
Well-
world around that event. It's just amazing. It's typical of him, really.
Yes. To be
A deep person, but very open as well. You know.
That's right, and to be
Yeah.
organising an album
Yeah.
ready.
You want to have a #1 album the day
That's right.
before you die. You know, it's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, it's quite a unique
Yeah.
thing to, but as you say, typical of the man to have done.
Yeah.
done something
Absolutely.
like that, yes.
Yeah, and things that I find out along the way, talking to people who've collaborated with him, you know, just remind me of what a great person he was. I mean, a couple of little stories. I did the Live Aid concert with him, and I
Oh.
put his band together for that.
Yes.
Still the biggest concert in history, I think.
Yes. Yes.
And he introduced the band by name
yes.
from the stage in front of the whole
Oh, right.
world. And he didn't have to do that.
No, he didn't have to
And I
name-
think he
yes.
was very aware of the gift he was giving to us.
Yes.
For giving our time to him, and that
Yes.
was just typically brilliant of him.
Oh, right,
Another
yes.
little, incident was I was in Iceland with Iggy Pop, not the supermarket, actually Iceland,
yes.
with Iggy Pop, and we were
Right,
playing with a festival there. And it
Yes.
was one of those times a year when it doesn't get dark for 3 months or something.
Okay,
So we were,
yes.
it was light all night, and I ended up
Yes.
drinking in a hotel with Public Enemy, who were on the same bill.
Oh.
So we were talking. I was talking to Flavor Flav about his 29 grandkids and all the rest of it. And,
Yes.
and I ended up talking to their drummer, who's called T-Bone Davis,
Yes.
from New York.
Okay. Yeah.
And he said, "Oh yeah." He said, "Yeah, my dad was a drummer." And I said, "Who's your dad?" He said, "Dennis Davis."
Yeah.
I said, "Oh, hey, we've got we share something because I played for Bowie, and Dennis Davis was one of Bowie's best drummers. He was on
Yes.
Young Americans and Station to Station and all this stuff."
Oh yes.
And we got talking about Bowie and his dad's relationship with Bowie.
Yes.
He said, I said, "Your dad died, right, in the last year?" He said, "Yeah, he did." He said, "Did you know David, although they hadn't worked together for 25 years, David paid his medical bills for the last 5 years?"
All right. Gosh.
Yeah, amazing, but typical in a way of Bowie.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Quietly generous and, lovely.
Yes.
Lovely guy.
Yes, and very much missed by.
A rare person.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so coming back onto the album now. Now, in terms of the process of putting this together, was it quite an organic process in the studio, or can you give us an idea of how?
Well, I work alone quite a lot
Yes.
in a home studio, so
Okay, yeah.
I'm able to do programming or have friends come in and play,
Yes.
or layer things myself, and I can record and engineer because I've produced a number of artists too.
Yes.
I'm quite experienced in the studio.
Okay. Yes.
But this album is a slow cooked album. It's
Right.
not something that I've thrown together quickly.
No,
it's
okay.
a number of years of material,
I see,
which
yes.
I've sometimes put away and then come back to
Oh, okay, yes.
some months or a year later.
Yes,
And gone,
yes.
"Oh, I know how to do this," or just it's something.
okay.
So it's been things I've put down and picked up again, and so I'm very happy with the way it's turned out because there's
Hmm.
nothing really on it that I would change or think, "Oh, that was a bit rushed" or something.
Yes.
It's all put together quite carefully, and I think when you hear it, you'll see that it's not a sort of, doesn't sound skimpy,
No, that makes sense. So maybe some of the songs were partial ideas of songs from a few years ago that you've now completed.
They definitely were, and that's how songwriting goes. You sometimes
Yes.
have a sort of pool of ideas that they might be something you play when you practice.
Yeah.
You start playing something and you just put it down, and it happens to kind of have a way of you have a way of returning to it, and then
Yes.
eventually at some point you start singing over it, and you think, "Oh, that's becoming a song, isn't it?"
That's
Well,
right,
other
yeah.
things come really quickly, but this album's full of things like that, which have
Yes.
been ideas which have been around for quite a long time. In fact, one of the Bowie co-writes, "Outside,"
Yes.
again, it was something he heard me playing and wanted to use.
Okay.
But I originally wrote that song nearly 40 years ago.
Oh right. That's,
The riff for that song
Yes.
is from a very long time ago. So I'm
Yes.
quite proud of that. I have an album out in 2019, but it's got some original stuff from that took root 40 years ago on it.
yes. In the album notes, has it got any stories to do with how some of the songs came about? Or?
Not well. It has on Bandcamp, funnily enough. 'Cause
Right,
I started. I did put this up myself on various platforms, and
Yes.
there wasn't much room. There is a gatefold in the CD with some info on it.
Right.
But online, when you put an album up online for download or something,
Yes.
they don't always have room for
No, that's
stuff.
right, yes,
But Bandcamp's
yes.
quite good, so I've put all the lyrics on Bandcamp and a
Okay.
little bit of background about each track on there.
Yes.
Yeah.
And in terms of websites, is there a main website people can go to?
Well, it's just called kevinarmstrong.com with a hyphen.
Oh, right.
Kevin-armstrong.com.
Okay, and all the links will be off there. So.
The links are there,
Yes.
or just look up the Kevin Armstrong Run
Yes.
on CD Baby or Bandcamp or one of those things, or
Okay.
even Amazon iTunes, and you'll find it.
Yes, it should be there. All right, that's great. And in terms of doing gigs, I think we're just interested to go back a little way into your experience gigging in and around London.
Yeah.
And in particular in the Camden area.
Well, I
and
did
so
live
what
in-
it was,
yeah.
and so what it was like, sort of in the 70s and 80s, gigging around what was the scene like in those
Well,
days?
it's funny you should ask that, because I've just sat and had a sort of, I went and had a little coffee at Nando's up
Yes.
the road. Anyway, I did used to live in Camden Town
Right.
in the mid-70s.
Okay, yeah.
And I remember the Sunday concerts at the Roundhouse.
Yes.
Where they used to have bands like Man from Wales, or Nectar, or even the Runaways came over from America.
Yes.
Lots of different things. I used to go and see music there on a Sunday afternoon. And then there were all the little pubs, and Dingwalls was a big thing in my life too. I played there a number of times, and it was a majorly important place to see bands in the 70s.
Yes.
So this is a familiar area to me, although it's changed beyond recognition now, isn't it? It's a really touristy kind of
That's
place.
right. Yes.
So you still got little places like the Camden Guitar Shop and the Roundhouse and Dingwalls. They still kind of exist, don't they?
That's right. Still got some of the venues from.
Yeah, and of course there's the what's that pub around the corner?
Dublin
in
Castle.
Parkway? Yeah, the Dublin Castle.
Yeah,
That's still
going strong.
a crucible of young talent.
That's
isn't
right,
it?
yes.
Which is great. And then there's the Purple Turtle down the other end, and which it used to be, and the Music Machine as it used to be. So I used to hang around at the Music Machine quite a lot.
Yes.
as well.
Now Coco.
Coco, it's called now, yeah.
That's right.
And that was a brilliant theatre to see music in the 70s.
Yes.
And there were always rock stars hanging around as well,
Yes.
So the punk guys were there. I used to play pool with Lemmy upstairs in the back bar. And,
At the Music Machine.
At the music, when it was the Music Machine, yeah. So
now-
I do have fond memories of Camden, the Camden rock scene.
Yes.
And it's a shame these days that it's not more kind of open like it was, because it's harder to get a gig now. It's harder to get paid. I mean, I've since 5 years ago I moved down to the south coast, in a town called Hastings, and it's that's got the most amazingly healthy music scene.
Has it?
Incredible. Well, a lot of musicians move out of London because it's cheaper.
Yes.
And it's also got a very vibrant music scene. It's got the kind of culture where there's 100 venues down there where the landlords will pay 50 quid a man to a band to go and play, and won't charge in.
Right.
So you get this really healthy exchange of people can get in for free, see really good musicians who are there and getting paid. So you've got this blossoming of music down there. It reminds me of London in the 70s.
Yes.
Other places I used to play, like Clapham, the 101 Club.
Oh, yes.
The Moonlight in West Hampstead. There were some really good places.
Half Moon in Putney, maybe?
The Half Moon in Putney, indeed. Yeah. So it's some of those places still going, I know.
Yes.
But it is a changed scene. And I'm not one. I'm not, because I've been around a long time. I don't moan about these things really.
Yeah.
It's there are different opportunities now.
Yes.
I love the way that bands can connect with an audience digitally and find a little niche for themselves of fans. That's really good now.
Yes.
And they don't have to sort of be beholden to a record company schedule or anything like that.
No,
that's really good. So there are opportunities, plenty of opportunities. But I think it's harder to make a living now than it was in my day.
Yes, I think it is. Yes, I think we're still pleased. We do have a few of the old venues remaining. Dingwalls.
Yeah, really great dance hall, that, and a great venue. Dingwalls, it really was.
Yes,
fantastic. Saw loads of people there.
Yes, and to bring it up to the present day, have you got plans to gig the new album?
Well, I have. I've actually reached out to a person called Danny Thompson, who's an amazing bass player. He used to work with John Martin and Richard Thompson, and he gratifyingly got back to me straight away when I sent him my album and said, "I love this. I can see myself on." So I'm trying to put something together with Danny.
Yes.
And there are a couple of good talented drummers where I live down there. I'm also possibly doing something with the Iggy's rhythm section. I'm still out with Iggy.
Right.
But I'm thinking about my commitments with Iggy Pop and how I can then do live stuff after, because I've got quite a busy summer coming up with Mr. Pop.
Oh right, are you off?
I'm off to
festivals.
I'm off to play the Sydney Opera House in April.
Right. Okay.
And Byron Bay Festival in Australia, and then we've got quite a number of Scandinavian and European festivals throughout June, July.
Yes.
So if I do gig this, it's liable to be in the autumn.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll look out for some dates then, maybe around autumn time.
Yeah.
For that. And
well, you can go to the website. It's at kevin-armstrong.com, and there'll be some info there. Yeah.
All right, that's great. Well, thanks very much, Kevin, for joining us on Camden Town Radio today.
You're welcome. Nice to talk to you.
Yeah, it's been great to have you on the show.
Okay. Hi, this is Kevin Armstrong. This is Camden Town Radio. Keep on rocking, everybody.
was a sailor crossing an azure sea under leaden skies, under your eyes, but I can't see too far with these animal eyes. Can't hold my breath without your voice, and I'm danger prone. I'll be bound, I'll be fast as hell without your love. And I'll run, 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 run. Yes, I'll run, 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 run without your love. I'm a gold man in a soaring tower, and it's cold in here without your touch.